Namaste. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. So, in the past few videos, I've done stories from mythology, from literature, from authors. But today I'm taking a leaf from the real life. We are talking about the missile man of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Dr. Avul Pakir Jainulabdin Abdul Kalam. And before talking about how he became who he became, let me tell you, for all those people who were born after 2005, perhaps, that he served as India's 11th president from 2002 to 2005, I suppose, or 2007, 2002 to 2007. And he was responsible for spearheading and coordinating some of India's nuclear testing programs in Pokhran in 1990s. Not only that, India's indigenous satellites and satellite launch vehicles and satellites like Agni, Prithvi, all the operations and development of those projects leading those satellites to the space was managed by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So he was literally the missile man of India. But that is not why I've chose to speak about him. He became who he became coming from a very humble background. So he was born in a lower middle class family in Rameshwaram in Tamil Nadu, and his father was a boat builder. They had a family boat building business in which his father used to build these boats that used to sail in the Bay of Bengal. But as you know, there were numerous storms that used to hit the Bay of Bengal. So the boats would not always be a good idea and would not always be a good source of income. But so, looking at his father growing up and how his father never gave up while building boats, no matter how many times the storms would hit the boats, that helped him understand the value of crisis management and how, in a crisis, there needs to be a person, a someone who you can look up to for moral support. And when his satellites wouldn't work and they would fail and they wouldn't launch, he was the person his team would look up to. And that is something he learned from his father. That. In times of trouble, you need somebody to look up to for moral support in order to help you move on forward. And there are very interesting stories from his childhood, from his work period. In fact, when he was an 8-year-old kid, that was the time of the World War II, between 1939 to 1945. And what happened in Rameshwaram was that his family, his cousin side of the family, they used to bring newspapers in a train, and the train would stop at Rameshwaram, and then the cousin would kind of distribute the newspapers to the people of Rameshwaram, and that's how they would get money. But because of food shortages and a lot of emergency problems during the war, the trains stopped stopping in the station of Rameshwaram. So what was to be done? So the cousin said that train is no longer going to stop at the station. So what I'm going to do is, as the train is passing through the station of Rameshwar, I'm going to throw the newspaper, and somebody needs to catch it and needs to distribute it to all the people in Rameshwaram before sunrise. And then whatever collection of money is done, we can do the accounts in the evening. So APJ was just 8 years at this point of time, and he was like, me, I will do this. I will catch the newspapers and give it to everybody in Rameshwaram before sunrise. So this newspaper was called Dinamani, basically the daily newspaper. And every morning, without fail, he would reach the platform and catch the bundle of newspapers and deliver it to everybody in Rameshwaram. And later on, when people would ask him that, why would he want to do something like that, something so cumbersome, something so requiring of hard work, he was like, one needs self-discipline, one needs a reason to get up every day in the morning. And that newspaper job taught me that even when the world is fallen asleep, even before the sunrise, you can get up and get something done. So when he was working in the DRDO, he was in charge of a very important and hectic project, and there were 70 odd scientists that were working under him. And a particular day, one of those 70 scientists came up to him because he was their boss, and the employee, the scientist, he asked APJ's permission that he could leave the office around 5:30, a little early, because the scientist had to take his kids to the exhibition that day. So APJ said, yeah, sure, go ahead. And the scientist started working that day. And when he looked at the time, he suddenly realized 5:30 had come and gone. It was 8:30 right now. He had completely missed the time. So he immediately went to the cabin of his boss, Dr. APJ. But he saw that APJ wasn't there. So he hurried to his home, thinking that, okay, fine, I'm late, but I'll still take my kids to the exhibition. When he reached home, his wife was there. And he asked, where are the kids? So the scientist's wife, she said, your manager came and around 5:15 and he took the kids to the exhibition. And the scientist was shocked. His boss, his manager, Dr. APJ, had himself taken his kids to the exhibition. What had happened, was that around 5:15 he looked into the cabin of this scientist and saw that he's working so hard. And he knew if he's working so hard, he should not get up. He should get the work done. But at the same time, he was a father who had made a promise to his kids. So that promise should not be broken. So he himself took it upon himself to go to this scientist's house, take his kids, and then go to the exhibition. So he was not just a boss. He was a kind human being. And in the way he worked and in the way he conducted himself, he showed that kindness should be placed above everything. So this incident does not start with Dr. APJ. It starts at the home of this one young boy called Mr. Naman Narayanan. So this Mr. Naman Narayan was in class 6th and had just been gifted this book called Wings of Fire, which is a very famous autobiography by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam about his life and how he rose to the position of working with the government in the defense minister. And this book was given by Naman's elder brother to him because Naman was struggling with studies during his exams and he was stressed out. But then he read this book and he was so excited, he was so fueled up, so charged that he was like, I can't express how I feel after reading this book. So Naman's mother was there. She's like, why don't you write a thank you note to the president? Naman was like, Amma, what are you saying? He's not my grandfather that I can just post him a thank you note. Naman's mother was like, why don't you write a thank you note and make something for him? So passionate was Naman about his feelings after reading the book Wings of Fire that he immediately sat down and made a sketch of Dr. Abdul Kalam. And then he wrote a thank you note thinking that I don't know if he's going to read it or not. My amma, she's just chumma asking me to write this thank you note. He might not even read it. He has so much work. And then he wrote the thank you note. He made the sketch. He put them together in an envelope. And the amma said, okay, let's go and post it in the post office. Exactly 20 days later, he received a post. He opened the post and it was a thank you note by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. It was written in his handwriting saying, thank you for the drawing. I really liked it. And thank you so much. And Naman Narayan was happy beyond his wildest belief. So this is how Dr. APJ was with genuine admirers of his. He would never assume that he was in a position so higher that he could not say thank you. He was always grateful. He always led with gratitude. Lastly, the point of telling you these small incidents about Dr. APJ's life was that he was a person who came from a very humble beginning, from a very humble upbringing. But there was something that he felt and believed strongly that also reflected in his work. He went through a lot of struggle in the sense that he worked at a job of distributing newspapers. Then he worked at his father's boat building business. So it was not as nowadays we kids, we study and then immediately go to college. We don't have a year or two in which we have to do any odd jobs. But that was not his life. And that did not make him bitter. The reason Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam is admired as he is amongst all the Indians and even people abroad is because he believed one basic principle, that the rigor of learning is far greater than the hardship of struggles. We see people who stick to their struggle story for far too long, and it inhibits their success. So struggle should be seen as learning, it should not be seen as struggle, because that changes how you think about how you are working and it rewires you from inside. So that is Dr. APJ's story. He placed far more importance on the rigor of learning than on the hardship of struggle. And go back today and pick up one of his books. Maybe the first one you can pick up is Wings of Fire if you have not already read it. It's in Hindi, it's in English, and you are not too old to read it. You are never too old to read it. So pick up, read it, and be inspired. I'll see you next week with another story, with another incident from somewhere new, somewhere you don't know yet. And see you next time.